What's up, Young Pool? I'm so excited to be connecting with you all for another Mondays. Now, if you'll remember, we are actually in a 3-part series all about liposomal technology. So last week we touched on a little bit about your skin barrier and how it's kind of hard to penetrate with skincare actives, and thusly liposomes come in to help us with that. So today's video and today's Mondays is going to be about the liposomal structure and how we are getting those exclusive and patented Remon ingredients into these liposomes for you to experience that Remon difference. So if you'll look behind me, I've drawn a seeming orb, but this is actually a liposome. So liposomes at their base are actually composed of a phospholipid bilayer. Now, what is a phospholipid? So if you look at my little guy over here, a phospholipid is a cellular component that's composed of a polar head and 2 nonpolar tails. Now, what is polar? What is nonpolar? What is polarity? So a polar head means that head is hydrophilic. It means it loves water. It wants to be in water, and around other polar ingredients or polar cell components. Those nonpolar tails, they're the opposite. They're hydrophobic. So hydro being water, phobic being fearing. They fear water, they want to be away from it. They're actually lipophilic, which means oil loving. So would rather be in any nonpolar environments and things of that nature. So why is it important that these have different polarities? Well, these polarities allow for a specific orientation to occur in the phospholipid bilayer, and bilayer meaning 2 layers. So essentially our first layer will orient as such, in which the polar heads are facing or existing within an aqueous environment, and those hydrophobic tails are pointing downwards. A second layer then orients itself such that the hydrophobic tails, or those nonpolar tails, can interact with each other, and then that second set of polar heads is going to be facing away, and it's going to be in a second polar environment. Now, this is extremely important for why liposomes work and why they are uptaken by the cell. This phospholipid bilayer mimics the phospholipid layer of cells, or the phospholipid bilayer of cells, such that it is able to penetrate into a cell or be taken up by a cell to deposit any active ingredients that are contained within the liposome. Because we have this phospholipid bilayer, this also really allows us to incorporate 2 different kinds of actives into a liposome and thusly into a cell. So if you look here, we have kind of the creation of that phospholipid bilayer into a spherical shape. And so we have the polar environment on the outside, that's going to be just the cellular environment. And then inside we actually have that nonpolar hydrophobic environment created by those tails. And then once again, we actually have that second set of polar heads, creating a second polar environment on the inside of the liposome. So in that hydrophobic environment created by those tails, we can actually deposit oil-soluble actives for incorporation into our skin cells. And then in the center, we have another polar environment where we could put water-soluble actives for incorporation or absorption into our skin. So this is why liposomes are also so unique, because not only are they recognized by the cell and easily kind of absorbed, but they also allow for deposition of both water-soluble and oil-soluble actives. Oil-soluble actives just traditionally are going to be hard for the cell to take up because the cell's nature is rather aqueous, rather polar. And then those water-soluble actives, although they can, be uptaken by the cell on their own, this kind of specificity of the liposome allows for those water-soluble actives to reach targets better. So with that being said, the utilization of liposomes allow for deposition of a variety of different actives into your skin, allows for a better absorption overall of key ingredients, and this is better explained when we talk about our Radiant-Some line. So the next week we're going to actually be discussing the microfluidizer processor, which is how we get our nanoliposomes in the Radiant-Some line here at Remon, and we will explore a little bit more about the Radiant-Some line itself. So I am looking forward to finishing off this series next week. Talk to y'all later.